Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Noah OG del Rancho back with you. It's been a little while, man. I had to take a break. Had a lot of projects to do. But anyways, I'm back, and I got, I guess, our official producer on the show now. What's up, Klaus? Why don't you say what's up?
Everybody, please tune in tonight. Cause you know
Yeah,
what?
bro.
Cause OG's back. Alright. Just do a little.
Now I know what type of music you listen to as a little kid, bro.
But
Now I
anyways,
know why you mouth that way. It all makes sense now.
everything's clicking into place. But yeah, guys, if you guys don't know me already, I'm Klaus Von Recht. I'm a homie of OG's. We met, just before New Year's last year. Um, we've been working on a lot of stuff in the background. We just wanted to show you guys what we've been working on, what we've been discussing, and that type of thing. So it's not like we haven't been doing anything at all. It's just that, great things take time to build themselves up. And so, we don't want any trolls or haters, trying to tear it down and that type of thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we've been working on a lot of stuff that we'll be sharing with you now that I'm back. Now that my time is a little bit more flexible. Shows will be more consistent. We've kind of grown, I guess you could say, the operations a bit to have a bigger team to be able to accomplish things like research. And Klaus is coming on essentially as our producer to help us manage the different heads that get involved into producing a quality episode. And that's really the aim. We want to up the ante as far as quality goes. At the same time, we're launching two efforts. We're taking Momento Hispano, spinning it off on its own. The website will be up soon. Hopefully I can be sharing it with you guys in a couple days. We're also launching Repatria, which is you can think of it as like our nonprofit organization. And Repatria really aims at what it says. We want to repatriar, right? We want to repatriate. We want to help Hispanics here in the U.S. in a sense, take the gold and silver from Egypt and take it into the promised land. At the same time, it has a double entendre, right? So repatria, to repatriotize, right? To refather eyes. So we want to be able to create a network, kind of a mentorship network of being able to help young men kind of step in and fulfill that role that men always were expected to carry and fulfill. And we want to help them do that. So very exciting.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, we've been working on some philanthropy works, specifically in Colombia. And I would really encourage everyone to do the same, and we'll teach you guys kind of how to do it, how I went about doing it. And that way we can really put our money where our mouth is, because a lot of these political YouTubers and influencers and all that, they talk the big talk, and some of them have interesting things to say, but it kind of gets stuck there on the whole theorizing and what are we going to do next and what does this theory say about the world and that type of thing. And I've always found it kind of annoying how it's just a lot of talking and not a lot of doing. So hopefully
Yeah.
you
Well, it's a
guys
grift. Most of these guys are just grifters, and they're really into selling fear, right? They're fear salesmen. They're no different from CNN or Fox News. Uh, they essentially want to keep hunting their audience so that they're kind of in an emotional state. And if you want to listen more, you got to get through the paywall and go ahead and send money here on a regular basis. For me, I've never had an interest in that. I just wanted to share a message that, I guess I was already kind of sharing unintentionally on Twitter, to, take a bigger platform to reach all my brothers back in the motherlands and in diaspora, because we're all kind of dealing with the same thing. We're all kind of coming to the same conclusions. So I wanted to offer that with the intention, though, of really growing into something bona fide. And I think the product, I mean, we've been doing this for a year now. So the product of that comes out Momento Hispano as a spinoff and Repatria as a spinoff. So we're very, very excited to be sharing that with you. I mean, over the course of the year, a lot of extremely intelligent, top tier talent have come together, have reached out to me, have shared their minds and their resources and their experiences and their networks. It's just really impressive. And I really got to give thanks to God because, man, it is the caliber of people that have reached out to me and connected and kind of become part of the conversation, whether here on the YouTube or through, our group chats on Telegram or Discord. It's just extremely impressive. I'm very, very impressed with this generation of Hispanic men, and I think the sky's the limit. So I'm excited to be launching this stuff.
Absolutely, it's kind of crazy how time flies. Just a year ago, I was listening to you guys and getting all these insights and I'm part of the show now, so it feels kind of weird actually in a way.
Off. Why don't you share with the audience a little bit about your channel, guys? If you haven't subscribed to Klaus's channel, you got to catch yourself on an asado. It is kind of like a no holds barred, very interesting conversations that spring up out of there. Share with us a little bit.
Right. So my channel serves a couple of functions. So the first, as OG says, is to have sort of informal kind of virtual spaces where us Hispanos can talk about things that we like. We've covered a lot of topics, a lot of serious topics, but there's a lot of nonsense talk, guy talk. You know how we do it. Because in this post-COVID society, we usually don't get the time or the ability to hang around in real life. So this is kind of like a virtual asado, virtual sort of barbecue, sort of cookout, get together. And in addition to that, I have a sort of little podcast thing called Patronistas, where I usually try to gauge people's ideas of where they're at, what your opinion on this topic is, and that type of thing. We've done a couple of interviews with a couple of people about Puerto Rico, about what do you feel about Colombia if you're an old school leftist. We've done shows on the future of Chile with Alexis Lopez Tapia, and we're planning on doing a little bit more than that. We're planning on doing sort of economics and business type streams where we help you guys kind of avoid this economic collapse that is probably going to happen. So the TLDR on that is buy gold and buy Bitcoin. And the last one would be making Spanish streams. I've been a little lacking on that, we'll admit, so that you guys can start to kind of loosen your tongues and be able to discuss very complicated ideas in Spanish. I've been a little busy, what I mean? It's college life, but, we struggled through it. There's no challenge a Hispano man with a faith in God can't overcome,
Sure. And you have Henry as a co-host.
Absolutely. Shout out to H Money Henry. He's been the MVP throughout all of this. It's kind of difficult to host a live stream with just yourself. There's not a lot of back and forth going around, and sometimes people can't check you on the nonsense you say. So yeah, shout out Henry. And you guys can give him a following on Twitter. We'll probably link all of that social media stuff down below. And also follow me on Twitter because, guys, Twitter has changed a lot ever since Spaces was introduced. I've been able to do networking on that, the likes of which I haven't seen since the early internet, since the MySpace days. I've been able to come in contact with Colombian progressives, Colombian conservatives, liberals, and kind of gauge where the country is at in a way that mainstream media would just never be able to give you that perspective, because mainstream media obviously has a bias, whatever that bias may be. But I've been able to interact with a lot of people in there. So if you guys are super interested in learning about things that are happening in Colombia, I usually join spaces that involve that. So give me a follow. I'll shoot out the links over there in the comments.
Dope. And you know what? Before we dive into the deep end of the pool today, let's say a prayer very quickly. So we have the Lord's blessing. So let's go ahead and start here. O Lord Jesus Christ, only begotten Son of thine unoriginate Father, thou hast said with thy most pure lips, for without me ye can do nothing. My Lord, O Lord, in faith having embraced thy words, I fall down before thy goodness. Help me, a sinner, to complete through thee thyself this work which I'm about to begin. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so let's dive in, Klaus. You have a set of items you want to touch on today. Why don't we, I guess, start from the top?
All right, absolutely. So the most important sort of Hispano-based issue that we've been having in La Madre Patria, or not Spain, but we've been having some gender ideology protests occurring in Puerto Rico, and let me see if
Nice.
I can share you the link here. So what's been going on is that the Puerto Rican government has
Can I give
tried
you
to.
access to the screen? How do I do that? Can I just do that? Or do you
No,
rather me do it?
actually, you blocked screen sharing. So,
How do I do that?
well, hold up. Let me see if I can, because I think you might have blocked screen sharing. So, I shared a screen there, and you're gonna have to grant me access in order to be able to scroll through it and that type of thing.
Okay.
Like
There it
that,
is.
like that. Absolutely. There you go. All right, so it says here, March Against Gender Ideology in Schools held in Puerto Rico. As you can see, there's some Puerto Rican protesters going against gender ideology in the island. It says here, the August 14th march was organized after Governor Pedro Pierluisi issued an executive order implementing in public schools an updated version of the gender perspective curriculum created by the administration of former Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla. Now, we can kind of see that it says here, quote, we're happy because we believe the goal was achieved, that our voice be heard so that the word gender is eliminated from any educational purpose for our children and for political effort they would try to implement. Now, news of this didn't really go around on mainstream media because the mainstream media outlets want to censor what has been going on. Because for this sort of liberal, progressive world order to take place, there has to be the assumption that people just naturally want this, and they've just been waiting for the government to implement these gender reforms. But this case in particular, in addition to the case of the Taliban, which we can touch on a little later, kind of proves that not everyone naturally has this sort of progressive mindset installed on them, and it has to be imposed from the top down. And this is kind of this is kind of normal with this is conventional wisdom. You know, let me put it in the case of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Before the Civil Rights Act, the average white American was quite racist and actually agreed with segregation. You know, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the integration of black and white Americans. They didn't really think that this was going to work. And now, about 60 years later, you would be considered a neo-Nazi if you said that the Civil Rights Act was a wrong thing. Now, again, I'm not saying that the Civil Rights Act was a bad thing at all, but what I'm saying is that this was imposed top down, and with enough time and with enough sort of indoctrination, people got around to that idea, and that's become the mainstream consensus. And that's what the U.S. Sorry.
Real quick, what you're pointing out there, and I've made emphasis on this before, but I make emphasis again. You really have to understand how dialectics work, the Hegelian dialectic. Google it, YouTube it. Fill your mind with that concept and how it works, and it'll basically show you how you can have a population that has a certain view, and by offering a false negative extreme of that view, you eventually get, or basically an antithesis, you'll get a synthesis, which will make the crowd kind of negotiate to the middle. And once you get them to the middle, then you offer another antithesis, and then you get another synthesis, and then you kind of come to a new middle. And over time, you'll see how you go from a society that has X and Y values to a society that, has tranny library hour or whatever they have nowadays. So that's how that happens, and that's very alchemical. And again, that's very much tied in part and parcel with the inception of the experiment called the United States of America. This might be a little bit too much for some people, but hopefully that'll impregnate your brain a little bit.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like, consider it a metapolitical tug of war. So the people who want to take us to this end state where there is no gender, there is no distinction between people, everyone's just kind of like an amorphous blob of nothingness and consuming and just existing. Well, they'll pull in a little bit. Each generation will pull in a little bit, and there's going to be some resistance, but the people in the resistance are going to get tired, right? And these guys are absolute ideologues, so they'll never get tired, and they push a little bit more and pull a little bit more and more and more, and next thing you know, Well, you have, MAGA drag queens, and now you have Trump waving the LGBTQ flag, a supposed Republican. Now, again, Trump is a Rockefeller Republican. He's been considered. You have Caitlyn Jenner running for governor of California. So these so-called conservative Republicans, I mean, they're just Democrats from 2011. So and
That's right.
they're always going to.
A conservative is yesterday's liberal. That's exactly right. No, I just wanted to emphasize that. A conservative is yesterday's liberal. I would say Hispanics are not conservative nor liberal. They're traditional, but there is no political platform for traditional views.
Absolutely. And the way they try to convert our worldview into one that is more suitable for this American imperial taste that they have is going through the kids. Which is why you see that you have all these drag queen story hours. You have this sort of very degenerate progressive cartoons being aired nowadays, because these progressives know that the way to subvert a society is through the children. Because you yourself may not believe in this crazy ideology, but your kids will eventually when they grow up. So that's where they get at you. Now, of course, let me read a little bit more from this article. It says here that...
give me one second, Klaus. So to contextualize what happened, Puerto Rico gets a rep for being on the progressive side of, I guess, politics in Latin America. I think it is the country with the lowest fertility rate. It's almost like at 1. It's probably one of the lowest in the world as well. It gets kind of, it gets ripped on for being like the source of Ricky Martin and reggaeton and kind of the degenerative effects. Even though his music can be enjoyable in certain contexts, we can all kind of admit that there's a degenerative effect on society from it. So kind of everybody rips on Puerto Rico as kind of being gay, and obviously not all Puerto Ricans are gay, of course. But here's a tremendous white pill that you see. There was a huge protest. It says about 20 to 30,000 people, 20 to 30,000 Boricuas said, basta esta mierda. Vamos a ir a pelear contra, what is it, like gay agenda, identity politics? What is it exactly that they were protesting?
I think I'm not exactly sure because the article doesn't specifically mention that, but you can assume it's probably things like inclusive languages, breaking traditional gender norms, introducing the concept of non-binary to Hispanic kids. That's what gender ideology in Hispanoamerica has kind of been focused on.
Latinxism just got beat the fuck out in Puerto Rico by a protest. And of course, none of the media aired this. They don't want to fan these flames. But you see movements like this all over. You see them in Mexico has a huge movement that's pushing back on this stuff. In Argentina and Chile as well. These countries that tend to get a reputation for being more on the progressive side. There is a huge native movement that's trying to reassert the traditional family, the traditional Hispanic family. And they just get no play on the airwaves, right? The media, the conglomerates, in a sense, try to pretend that this isn't happening. But when there's, a gay little protest against something, they'll for sure, will repeat that a million times. Somebody got shot in a protest, and, it depends on their agenda. They're going to highlight certain protests. This is the type of protest that they will not highlight, though.
And they explicitly stated in this article that the media was rather silent on this. I think it says here. It says. Are there any pictures? Yeah. So I guess I'll just link the article for anyone who wants to watch it. There was a lot of media. Yeah. There was. See. Where was it? Yeah. So I got some videos. I got some pictures. Let me see where that's at. There we go. So as you can see, there was a massive protest in Puerto Rico. It says here, no to gender dictatorship. I'm assuming this is San Juan. Yeah. Sí. No a la dictadura de género.
Nice.
All right. So let me see. There's more coming from this. Let me see. I got a video here.
Okay.
All right. These were These were pretty big, actually, these protests. So there you go. So as you guys can see, these protests were pretty big. As you can see, people marching in the streets of, I'm assuming that's San Juan. Let me see if I can find some more videos. That's weird. Usually there were more here. I don't. There we go. That's the one I'm looking for. All right. Let me share this with audio because actually the audio in this one is quite interesting. Let's hear what they have to say.
Una vez que a los menores se les confunde y empiezan a presentar los trastornos con su sexualidad, son referidos a clínicas para darles tratamientos con hormonas y operaciones que terminan convirtiéndolos en pacientes de esos servicios por el resto de sus vidas. Pero no solo eso, también ha aumentado en más de 1.500.
So what they're describing there is the whole trans kid issue. What they're saying that these gender ideologues in Puerto Rico are confusing kids as to what their gender is. Now, when you confuse a kid as to what their gender is, they don't know any better because they're children, obviously. And so the first thing they're going to ask is, well, you know, if a boy starts asking this question, well, what gender am I? The ideologues are going to say, well, you're probably non-binary or gender non-conforming, or in the worst case scenario, they're going to say, well, you're probably trans because I kind of saw you play with a doll that one time, and therefore that must mean you are a girl. Kind of weird how these people who don't believe in gender norms, they say that, oh, you know, skirts and all that, that's not gender. Anyone can wear it. When they see a boy play with a doll, oh, he's a girl. Absolutely. You know.
Oh, shit. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. But, you know, again, behind Satan, there is no rationale. There is no logic. In fact, if something doesn't make sense logic, if something doesn't hold up to scrutiny, then you can probably pretty much assume that Satan's behind it at some level. And again, you're not going to defeat this by logic because logic does not exist for the demon possessed mind. But yes, that's a very important point to understand that here they are telling you that, you know, there's no such thing as gender or something. But if a boy is, you know, a little toddler is playing with his mom's heels because he thinks it's funny, all of a sudden that means he's identifying as a woman, and let's shoot him up with hormones that are made by GlaxoSmithKline that's traded on NASDAQ. Let me go ahead and share this.
So this is another video showing what appears to be, this could have been probably in the hundreds of thousands of people protesting this gender ideology.
Wow, look at that.
So it's major, and it's the coalition, from what I've gathered, is a pan-Christian coalition of non-denominational Christians, Catholics, Protestants. You know, anyone who still believes in Jesus Christ is protesting against this. I didn't hear much from the secular community, so, you know, if you're secular, I guess you'd be disappointing in that, but, you know, that's just kind of what you should expect.
Secular people have no morals. It's only what's convenient to them. Usually what's convenient to the bottom line is what it comes down
to. All right. So, yeah, apparently this was... Sorry? Yeah, so this was from the Puerto Rican capital. Again, this is just another view of what was happening here. Look at that. All these people.
Yeah, the article said 20 to 30,000 people showed up. You know, and I think Puerto Rico has about like 3-point-something million people on it. So, you know, I think that's quite a significant number. And again, I think realize that around this, there's a media blackout, right? This isn't something that the media is promoting. More than likely, if you post it on Facebook, it's getting taken down. You know, they don't want people to feel emboldened in their ability to push back on jam culture. So it's nice to see. This is definitely a white pill. I mean, I'm very, very proud of my Puerto Rican brothers today to be pushing back on this stuff. And God bless them. And que todos sepan que acá estamos con ustedes para la que sea. Hasta tirar machete y piedra si es lo único que nos queda. Sus hermanos nicaragüenses están listos para batallar. Ajá, pero ¿qué es esto? What are you going to show us now?
All right, so this is just a bit of a black pill, a bit of a reality check. So here it says, this makes the abusive mercenary of Gustavo Petro, Daniel Quintero Calle with the boys and girls of Medellin. This is not a teaching to be tolerant or exclusive. This is harsh and crude child abuse. So I guess in Medellin now we have Drag Queen Story Hour.
Wow, who posted that?
There's some account called Adam Smith Liberty, which is ironic. Yes, I know.
I thought it was like, yeah, of course. This is the magical realism of Latin America, the contradictions.
Yes.
It's important to note here. It's actually really nice that you're following up with a story from Colombia, because from my point of view, Puerto Rico is a de facto colony of the United States, right? We all understand that it's an American territory. Taken from the Spanish-American War. Puerto Rico has never been independent. It's never been free. It's been a U.S. territory. So we can understand, I think, why Puerto Rico might serve as kind of an avant-garde to kind of degenerate the rest of Latin America, because it's, in a sense, America's beachhead in the region. Look at it geographically. It literally is right in the center of being able to reach out to Latin America, from Mexico down to Brazil, essentially. But it's definitely a white pill to see this pushback. And then Colombia, though Colombia is not de facto a colony, not de jure a colony of Puerto Rico, of the United States. It is de facto a colony of the United States. Colombia is essentially a member of NATO. It is, if you look at it from a geopolitics, geostrategic point of view, it is extremely strategic to have, military bases in Colombia. If you want to project power into the rest of the region, you can project power into Mexico, which you already share a border with. You can project power down into Brazil and Peru, and Bolivia and Chile. So, this isn't coincidence. And of course, the United States came into Colombia in the guise of the drug war. And I think if you're an honest Colombian, you're going to be able to see a tremendous cultural degeneration ever since. You can see how Colombian society has been altered ever since it's become a de facto colony of the United States. And, here's what you're about to share with us. You're going to share with us that Colombia is leading the pack with Drag Queen Story Time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I need to give you guys a little bit of a background here. So this happened because the mayor of Medellin is a progressive, right? So his name is Daniel Quintero Calle, as I'm highlighting here. And he is he's part of this progressive coalition led by this guy, Gustavo Petro, who is a literal ex-terrorist who used to be part of the M19 movement. And the M19 movement was a Colombian social democrat terrorist group that, among other things, helped with the siege of the Palace of Justice back in the late 80s. This was a very violent group of people who would kidnap anyone who went against them. They've killed people.
They kidnapped. Remind you guys who've seen Narcos, M19 are the ones who kidnapped Pablo Escobar's partner's little sister. And so then he started persecuting them, and then he made them his bitch. And he basically made them attack the palace and burn the evidence of his arrest, I believe, right?
Yeah, and to add to the clown world, various members of the M19 movement were co-signants of the 1991 Constitution, because there was a constitutional assembly in order to draft a new constitution for the country, which officially made it secular, officially enacted a bunch of progressive provisions into it, and thus we were living in the shadows of the 1991 Progressive Colombian Constitution, which leads to things like this, as we're about to see. Let me know if you can hear it.
social.
Yeah, dale.
Obviamente cada quien puede vestirse y hacer lo que quiera con su vida, pero que la alcaldía de Medellín presente a este hombre como personaje modelo para los niños es algo aberrante. ¿Acaso creen que no sabemos que la vida de un trans es una vida llena de sufrimiento? Aparte de ser los mejores clientes, el cliente perfecto, su consumo de medicamentos y de hormonas es de por vida. Y las múltiples y dolorosas cirugías que se realizan, entre ellas la mutilación de sus propios órganos genitales, representan cantidades exorbitantes de dinero. ¿Es esto lo que quiere la alcaldía de Medellín para nuestras futuras generaciones? ¿A qué intereses económicos y políticos está respondiendo la actual administración? Porque valga la aclaración, es la primera vez que esto sucede en una feria del libro. Como nota final, un pequeño detalle. A los asistentes se les exigió un tapabocas durante todo el evento. Si algún niño, con el ánimo de tomar un poco de aire, se bajaba del tapabocas, inmediatamente uno de los tantos organizadores del evento se acercaba a hacer el correctivo. En cambio, el amigo transvestido se paseó durante todo el evento sin tapabocas. Era el único que no lo llevaba y nadie se lo exigía. ¿Ese es tu mensaje subliminal? ¿O es que nos lo estás diciendo? ¿Tiene más privilegios esa persona que las demás solo por atender a una condición sexual y mental políticamente correcta? Por favor, padres, protejan a sus hijos. No confíen en las instituciones. En estos momentos los niños...
Wow.
Now, just to summarize for those who don't understand, this was apparently a book fair that was happening in Medellin, so literal drag queen story hour. And a person in drag was instructing the kids, taking them along, telling them about the books they were going to read, and God knows what books they were reading, because they didn't even mention that, because they probably, they didn't know.
It would be the least of it, man. This is tragic. This was heartbreaking, especially the point about the mask wearing, how the gender dysphoria madman wasn't wearing a mask the whole time, but if the kids try to get some fresh air, a disease that even doesn't even affect them like it does fucking dirty trannies who probably sell their asshole on the streets. Forgive my foul language, but this deserves some vulgarity, some disgust. Didn't have to wear a mask. The irony, the logic. Again, there's no logic here. This is how you know it's of Satan, because there is no logic. There's no reasoning. There's no logos.
Absolutely.
That was very sad to watch. That was very, very sad to watch. Let's pray for Colombia, man. Let's hope that movement that is being seen in Mexico, that just got seen in Puerto Rico, gets passed on to Colombia, and that nuestros hermanos colombianos comiencen a combatir contra Satanás, a decir en voz alta los demonios, a declararlos en voz alta para que todo el mundo sepa que son demonios.
Amén. Oremos por Colombia. No, y es que lo que más me emputa, what really bothers me about all of this is that I distinctly remember in 2016 and about 2015, there was a lot of talk about the perils of gender ideology coming to Colombia, because there was this, let me remember her name. Her name was Gina Parodi, and she was a lesbian politician who was kind of starting to introduce the concept of, hey, maybe we should teach tolerance of people who, may not love people like you'd love, but, we should just tolerate them, and they're just human beings just like you and me. And that's...
It should be noted, Klaus, that the mayor of Bogota, the capital of Colombia, is an open lesbian.
Yes, she is an open lesbian, and as someone who was born in Bogota and does feel like he's Bogotano in a way, we took a major L on that one. We took an absolute massive L. She has absolutely destroyed the city. The city is as unsafe as it's ever been. They're even Gotham in Bogota. They're calling it Ciudad Gótica. The potholes are getting worse. She's doing nothing to stop the migrant criminal problem. She doesn't care about infrastructure, doesn't care about any issues other than to just virtue signal. So now we have literal virtue signaling politicians possibly the third highest office in the land, because the mayor of Bogota is seen almost like the third most important political figure because of the mayor of the capital.
They're a shoe-in for the presidential office at some point.
Exactly.
And
So
I just what was the saying? What is it? Cachaco, perro y gato, tres animales ingratos. Let me ask my amor. Anyways, my wife will come in a second. Let me read this statement that Inquisidor just shared, which I think is a Bible scripture. He says, "And whosoever shall scandalize one of these little ones that believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck and he were cast into the sea." So I believe our Lord Jesus Christ said this. He said, "Whoever shall scandalize the little ones that believe in me." So whoever basically messes with the little kids who believe in me, it would be better for him to hang a millstone. A millstone is a gigantic kind of stone, circular stone that was used to grind wheat. He's saying that it would be better if one of those was tied to his neck and he were thrown into the sea than basically what awaits him in hell. What Christ is telling, that's Mark 9:41, by the way. What Christ is telling us is basically, one of the worst things you could potentially do is to do what la alcaldía de Medellín is doing to their own children. La gente paisa. Qué triste. Amor, ¿cómo es el dicho? Cachaco, ¿cómo es? Cachaco, paloma y gato, tres animales ingratos. Costeño supremacy, huh, honey? No. We shouldn't enter into too much bantering. This is sad. This is actually a very sad thing. But I think when we enter into banter and teasing, the reason why we're doing it is, it's like your homies pushing you and shoving you in the basketball court because they want to see you kind of, wake the fuck up and like put in extra work and, buck up and fight back and, put some points on the board. So that's really where it's coming from. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Klaus.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that point, it seems that a lot of people who are Republican nationalists can't seem to get past this. Noel has criticized my country numerous times, and the first thing I did was admit to my country's mistakes. I didn't go, "Oh yeah, but our country is bigger, and we have a higher population, and we have a higher this, and that, and our military could kick your military's ass.
You're poor."
And you're poor, and you have a socialist president. Like no, okay. If my country has issues, the appropriate response as an adult, as a responsible person, is to say, yes, my country has issues, and you clowning me has absolutely helped me and sort of acknowledge that and be enraged by that and to try to do something about it. Okay.
Yes,
and
that's the point, so that you feel enabled to do something about it. It's not to put you down, it's to wake you up. And again, this is not to say that my country doesn't suffer from ridiculous things. Of course it does. All our countries do. And when I see something going down in Colombia, Puerto Rico, or Mexico, I personally feel like it's in my own country. It's like my aunt's house, right? Like I'm not gonna want to see my aunt's house shitted on, right? I don't want to see it destroyed. I don't want to see it robbed or subverted. This is my aunt's house, right? This is where my cousins live. So for me, it's like estamos entre familia, and again, the intention is to enable you to solve the problem, because you're not going to solve a problem if you don't admit that there's a problem.
Absolutely. Now, OG, if you could just share the screen that I posted over here.
Give me 1 sec. I just want to read what Culturally Castizo 2.0. Is this cultural Hispanic? Is this you, dog? I think it is you. Well, he says Puerto Rico is the gateway to the Antilles. To control this part of the region is also military strategy. No powers have been able to dismay the inhabitants' politics and language. Yes, absolutely. This is completely geopolitics and geostrategy. I mean, as long as el tiburón, to quote Rubén Blades, is roaming around in Mare Nostrum, which is the Caribbean, it's our sea, then Mexico is exposed. The belly of Mexico is widely exposed. And I mean, if we look at what the Americans have done every time they want to punk Mexico, they go straight for the belly. So it is a point of strategy, not just Mexico, Colombia, Nicaragua, Venezuela. If we do not control Puerto Rico, if a rival controls Puerto Rico, we are all exposed. That's absolutely right. And I think this is true, not just in terms of geostrategy or geopolitics, but in culture as well. Being that, again, Puerto Rico is a de jure colony of the United States. What they can make happen in Puerto Rico first, they're going to export to the rest of Hispanoamerica. And, you know, I'm glad that over this time, I've been able to connect with some base Puerto Ricans who see this and who are actually working, doing stuff to call this out and to try to, you know, chant down Babylon.
Absolutely. And we're going to get to what was happening in Mexico by the U.S. in a little bit. I'll segue into that real soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to be a big one. So this is Gina Parodi. She was a Colombian politician. She's a lesbian, you know, physiognomic check, obviously.
That girl is not a lesbian. That girl is a woman who was probably molested by somebody in her family, hates men, but she is not a lesbian. She just has anger towards men. I'm convinced there's no such thing as a lesbian, man. That's the type of woman that you put a macho around her and you see how quick that lesbianism melts away. And very quick, very soon, she'll be showing you her neck and flipping her hair behind her ears, and she'll be a little lady in the presence of real machos.
I think she might have been married to a girl. Anyways, whatever. So here's the smoking gun. So apparently she was Ministry of Education appointed by Juan Manuel Santos. And she resigned the Ministry of Education in October 4th, 2016, shortly after the referendum on the Colombian peace process was voted as no. It is believed it had to do with sex ed school books called discrimination-free school environments that were accused of promoting homosexuality and gender ideology. Former President Álvaro Uribe Vélez and former Inspector General Alejandro Ordóñez joined the campaign against such school books. So just to summarize real quickly, the Colombian referendum on peace was sold as a mere agreement with the FARC that they would put down their arms and pursue their aims in the political arena, to no longer terrorize people and to act, you know, within the limitations of a democracy. You don't intimidate people, you don't kill people, you get your ideas voted into power. But of course, that's always a Trojan horse for an ulterior motive. And unfortunately, I was witness to this because my younger sister, I think in 2018, 2019, she was still in high school in Colombia. And I went to a sort of educational day she was having at school where they were learning about different things. And one of those things was homosexual acceptance. Because it was part of educating the youth about the peace process and what peace means in Colombia. And there wasn't much talk about peace. There was talk about accepting homosexuality and not discriminating against your gay schoolmates.
Well, they always sneak stuff like this in. Of course, doesn't surprise me.
And that's why the Colombian people voted no, because the Colombian people themselves knew that there was an ulterior motive to forgiving the FARC. I mean, I'm sure there were people who would never forgive the FARC and they were going to vote no in that regard. But let me just put another example. So the president at the time, Juan Manuel Santos, promised the Colombian people that he was not going to guarantee 10 congressional seats to the FARC. He said, you guys have to win those seats through the polls, through voting. And what happened afterwards? Well, the FARC now has 10 guaranteed seats. And the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, the HIP, has a a gender-neutral bathroom. Let me see if I can pull that up. Baños de la HIP.
And we're gonna have to do, Klaus. We're gonna have to do a Colombia episode soon. I know you guys have been working on it, but I mean, Colombia is so important for the rest of Hispanoamerica to understand because the examples of subterfuge, of subversion, of intervention, of how local elites are used, how the drug industry is used. I mean, Colombia is like the gross example, case study of how all these things can happen in one country, with the ultimate result being what? How many bases of American bases are in Colombia today? And again, I think Colombia has the second lowest fertility rate, just behind Puerto Rico in Hispanoamerica. So, you know, I really, really want to do a full-fledged episode, not just on the history to understand the moment, but, you know, kind of dive into these different dynamics that have played out in Colombia. Colombia is very much probably the biggest battleground of Jam versus Hispanidad, I would say.
It is the battleground, and unfortunately, we have no warriors.
And that's where Bolivar was fucking around, of course.
and we have no soldiers in this, and we have no factions in this war. You have the conservatives and you have the progressives. So again, this is the HEP, otherwise known as the Jurisdicción Especial para la Paz. It's supposed to be a Truth and Reconciliation Committee and court where former actors in the armed conflict, you know, can confess to their crimes and they don't get sentenced, and it's been an absolute mess. The HEP has been an absolute mess. People who have committed crimes against humanity have been forgiven. It's just an absolute mess. So it says here, as part of its inclusion strategy, the HEP Colombia inaugurated a multi-gender bathroom at its headquarters. The ceremony was attended by the director of the Humboldt Institute, Brigitte Baptiste, as you can see here, who gave a conference on the gender and biodiversity approach. As you can see, I have to ask the audience.
And you know what? To me, it's always the fucking French, man. There's always a French hand in this. It's not just the Anglos. You know, to me, all white people look alike. So I clump the French and the Anglos together. But goddamn, there's always a French name behind these things.
He's Le French. You thought it was someone else, but it's also the French, don't forget. So I have to ask the audience, what does this have to do with victims of the conflict? What does this have to do with solving the issue of the internal armed conflict in Colombia, the longest running internal armed conflict in modern history? What does this have to do with restitution to the victims? Here it tells you straight up, this is the face of someone that's inclusive. This is the face of someone who recognizes diversity. This was a Trojan horse.
Let me take advantage of this moment real quick. Go back to that picture, actually. I want to hold it up.
Hold up.
On the French fagot. Look, man, back in the day, when you were under control of a foreign power, they would take down your flag. Now go back to that other image with the little writing on it. They would take down your flag and they would put a new flag, right? And this is who ran the port now. This is who ran the plaza now. Today, the evil empires have gotten smarter than that. They let you keep your own flag. They let you keep your own LARPy fucking fake history and mythology, as long as it doesn't glorify your Spanish heritage. But they do fly a rainbow flag. This is how you know that your country is a colony of Gem. This is how you know. If your country is dealing with sexual identity politics seriously on a popular stage, if it's part of the main conversation, if it's taken seriously in your country, then you can pretty much expect that your country is a colony of Jam culture, of the Atlanticist powers of the United States, of the J Anglo-Masonic Empire. Mr. Popo, mamá me la verga, maricón. Anyways, let's keep going.
Bloqueado y atrillado.
I'm
now,
pretty
you
sure
guys
Popo is Picho, right? I'm pretty sure at this point.
Could be. I don't know. All these trolls. And what are they doing for the cause? Absolutely nothing. So
they're the ones with a light-skinned black dude fetish. Anyways,
Lord. Anyways, so if you guys remember, or if you guys have been keeping up with the events going on in Afghanistan, I'm trying to find the tweet here. There was a tweet from the Kabul embassy that hosted the rainbow flag and was talking about respecting LGBTI people. In what I believe it was posted during Pride Month, so they know what they're doing. They are absolutely aware of what they're doing. They wanted to turn Afghanistan into another global homo republicat, which is going to be impossible because the people of Afghanistan, the absolute hubris of these people.
The hubris is God damn, man. Nobody tops Anglo hubris, bro. Nobody tops Anglo hubris, man.
And that is a very Protestant worldview. It's like it's a very white man's burden type of worldview. But it's no longer about Protestantism. Well, you would argue that's about Protestantism, but it's now morphed into this progressive white man's burden that we're gonna civilize these cave-dwelling Middle Eastern savages who believe in such despicable, disgusting patriarchal norms such as decency and saving yourself for marriage. I mean, can you believe these guys, though? In 2021, can you believe these people exist? Absolutely despicable. And so, this is one of the reasons why the Taliban was just able to blitzkrieg their way into Kabul. And it wasn't just that little tweet. There's actual proven evidence that the U.S. Department of State and other federal agencies were engaging in a gender equality program in Afghanistan. They were trying to make their women into feminists. Now, again, the Taliban, in my personal opinion, is a bit too harsh on their women. I can absolutely understand that argument, but I am not an Afghani. It is not my concern in the least. That is up to them. Okay, and we could probably learn a thing or two from the Taliban.
I think so. I mean, again, I'm not going to sign off on Islam as an Orthodox Catholic, as an Orthodox Christian. But I have to tip my hat off on seeing jam culture be beat the fuck out and kicked out of a place and show the world that this presumptuous ideology, that this universalism around liberalism is not just swallowed up by people, right? The Afghanis are not suckers like the Hispanics have been in Latin America. They have not bought this shit. They have not swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. And we have to give credit where it's due, and it's because of Islam that these people have been able to band around and push back on this agenda. And, God bless them. Hopefully they come on to the truth of Christ at one point, and Afghanistan will be a better place. But, again, I'm not signing off on whatever nefarious things the Taliban does, or, again, it's the other side of the world. I don't care, but I do like to see people come together and kick out a corrupting force from their country.
As I like to say, no Taliban ever called me Uribestia or Baraco. So, why should I care about what they do? Now that we're talking about Afghanistan and jam, let us segue into just this very interesting story that kind of proves what loyalty to the U.S. kind of gives you. It gives you a couple of wonderful things, like Afghani refugees in Colombia. Now, from Caracol Radio, it says here, stay of Afghan refugees in Colombia will be financed by the U.S. The Colombian ambassador to the U.S., Juan Carlos Pinzon, provided details on how this process was progressing. All right, let me see.
Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Are you serious, dog?
Let me get into the story. So the operation between Colombia and the U.S. is advancing to accommodate Afghan refugees who will live in the country temporarily. The costs of this process will be financed by the U.S., and all the details are already being adjusted to receive temporarily the refugees. It says here, I believe that the Colombian people should feel proud of the great respect and reputation that our country has as a people that always welcomes those in need and helps defend human rights. Now, apparently it says here, this week, after meetings between the American Embassy and Migración Colombia, it will be known how many are going to arrive and where they are going to stay temporarily. Now,
Wow.
I think Noel, through
Wow.
all the episodes that he's done, can pretty much let you know that you cannot trust the U.S.'s word as far as you can throw it. From what I've
no.
heard on from what I've heard on Twitter, it is estimated that about 4,000 Afghanis will be resettled here, and it is estimated that within somewhere the time frame I've heard it ranges from 1 year to 5 years. They will then eventually be processed into the U.S., where they will
This is
seek
so
refuge
sad.
there.
This is so sad, dog. Like I'm thinking of like a fucking, rural ass Afghani, like a dude coming to Colombia with a fat ass and tight pants and just being like, forget Islam.
And funny enough, they were
Oh
saying that it. So I was browsing through all the forums and whatever. I was going on Ispachan, and they said that these Afghanis are just gonna turn into the next reggaetoneros. Like you're just gonna see Maluma with a beard and like with a Quran waving in his hand, like, "Hey, I got Taliban's, homie," like that type of thing.
my God, dude. And the poor
And yeah,
girls, man. I feel bad, all veiled up, seeing these sexy ass Colombian women in their glory that they should kind of, preserve for their husbands. But well, maybe we can, maybe it'll have a conservative effect on Colombian women. Maybe it'll be like, you know what? Maybe there's something to learn from the Afghan women. We could be a little bit more
no,
modern.
no. Well, I've seen Insta hoes on their stories. Be like, see, this is what machismo causes, and this is what happens in Afghanistan, and blah 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 blah. It's just all this nonsense, bro. But you know what? On the low key, like a lot of these insta hoes of Colombia, they're escorts, bro. So like, it's just
Prepago.
claro, las chicas, claro.
Mhm.
So wait, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so they're reset. The funniest thing is that part of these Afghans are being resettled in Cali. O sea, Cali, donde las viejas son tan buenas, tan culonas, I mean, it's like the most haram place that they can go to. So I kind of want to see what what their reaction of that is going to be. La gente salseando, ya es como con esos culos operados, así, con el acento. Tú me conoces, toda la vuelta.
Los del Valle, los del Valle. Wow,
Claro,
wow,
claro.
wow. Man,
Yo,
I can't believe it. So they're using Colombia as a fucking Afghani dump depot. This is what happens when you side with Babylon. Yo espero que los colombianos vean cómo Colombia se ha hecho una colonia peor de lo que fue Nueva Granada. Sin nada de los beneficios. No hay la Universidad Javeriana construida, no hay catedrales, no hay pueblos bellos, no hay nada, no hay Cartagena siendo construida. O sea, en intercambio de nada, más que problemas, conflictos, drogas, crimen, degeneración,
refugiados.
Refugiados afganis. ¿Qué puta están haciendo en Colombia?
O sea, eso fue lo más X que yo haya visto en mi vida. Yo todavía no lo puedo, o sea, obviamente ya lo puedo comprender, pero eso todavía no encaja. O sea, pudieron ir a Turquía, porque Turquía es aliado de Estados Unidos. Pudieron procesarlos en otra parte.
Es un país musulmán.
Hay aliados musulmanes de Norteamérica, entonces no lo entendí, pero bueno. Like next time we're gonna see salsa songs go like las Afghanis son como las flores, pura amapola, heroína y droga.
Hey, there's the connect, bro. There's the connect, the heroin connect. You always got to follow black markets. Black markets are involved in every major geopolitical moves news. There's always billions behind the scene in illicit trade, whether it's human trafficking, drug trafficking, you name it. There's always billions behind these stories. Wow. Okay, man. What else you got for us, bro? Why don't we bridge into
the demographic one, the Kissinger report?
Yeah.
We just want to show you guys all the beautiful gifts that Jam brings to us. Now, this is an excerpt in Spanish of what we know as the Kissinger report, and it was a 1974 report on the troubling demographics of subdeveloping countries. Now, and here, let me see if I can translate. So it says your quote, The case of Mexico serves as...
Léelo en español y después lo...
Listo, listo, bueno. El caso de México sirve como caso testigo de la inversión estadounidense en las últimas décadas sobre planificación familiar en los LCDs. LCD significa países menos desarrollados. De forma directa o indirecta, por organismos oficiales o fundaciones, Estados Unidos financió por lo menos 64 planes de anticoncepción en México en los últimos 11 años. Y más de la mitad de ellos...
Repetir otra vez esa última parte.
Estados Unidos financió por lo menos 64 planes de anticoncepción en México en los últimos 11 años. Y más de la mitad de ellos eran auspiciados directamente por las fundaciones Ford, Rockefeller, MacArthur y Hewlett. Estados Unidos exige por ley, como condición para las ayudas del desarrollo, que los países receptores de la ayuda internacional tomen medidas para reducir el crecimiento demográfico. To translate there, the case of Mexico serves as a witness to American investment in the last decades about family planning and LDCs, which stands for least developed countries. Directly or indirectly through government organizations or NGOs, the U.S. financed at least 64 family planning or anti-conceptive.
Birth control.
So the United States financed at least 64 birth control plans in Mexico in the last 11 years. And more than half of those were sponsored directly by the Ford, Rockefeller, MacArthur, and Hewlett Foundations. The U.S. demands by law, as a condition for aid, that countries receiving international aid take measures to reduce demographic growth.
So let's break that down real quick. So what this is showing is that the U.S. through foundations, the foundations that practically own the United States, these elite families that own the United States, have sponsored 64 different initiatives to promote birth control. And we know birth control leads to sexual liberation, sexual degeneracy, lack of sexual morals, promiscuity, and then all the beautiful things that come after that in Mexico over the last 11 years. And they've been successful. They've brought Mexican birth rate, dramatically down from maybe 4 to 6 over the last 30 years down to, I think, 2.2, 2.3 is where it's hovering around, just above replacement. And they're gunning to get it below replacement. So, this is a smoking gun amongst many that shows really what it's all about. And, this ties into the promotion of the Black legend at an educational level, because the ultimate goal is simply to lower our numbers so that we can't offer competition. I mean, from a dispassionate point of view, you can't really player hate, right? Like if you're interested in control and having power, and your neighbor, which is much bigger and numerous and has more resources than you, is an existential threat to you, then you're going to want to, do essentially what's been happening over the last 200 years. And in the case of this article, in Mexico over the last 11 years, with 64 different initiatives promoting birth control in Mexico. And then the added caveat here is that when the United States offers you a loan, whether it's directly with the IMF, part of the dotted of the fine print on there before you sign on the dotted line is you basically got to bring down your demographic numbers. You got to bring down your fertility rate, or we're not going to give you this loan. Compare and contrast that. I'm not saying that we should, shill for China, but, China's in the news a lot and how they're mean to the Africans with their loans, but there's none of this fine print in a Chinese loan, right? There's none of this. China doesn't care about gender ideology or promoting feminism or promoting sexual liberation. China doesn't care to bring down Mexico's population numbers. So, before you fall into the pre-programmed rhetoric of China bad, communist China bad, which is way more free enterprise in the United States, to be honest, think about that China offers loans with no fine print, right? You pay the loan, or we get access to your resources as collateral till you pay us back. Pretty straightforward. If you're going to do a loan with the West, with JAM, you're going to have to lower your population numbers.
Now, OG, if you could just share the screen that I shared with you. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not some kooky thing that Hispanitas, bro, came up with. Yep. Here's the book that you guys should look into. It's the Kissinger Report.
And we're gonna do an episode on this very soon.
Absolutely. So I think I'm gonna have to go to because there's a PDF version of this, and I don't know if we could put this on the chat so people can at least access it. And it details a number of developing countries, and Mexico and Colombia are included in those, and they show concern about their disparate birth rates.
Do you have a screenshot of that little snippet where it mentions these countries? It was kind of like a summary of this. I remember, like, before we found the document, we were going based off this little piece.
I can find it on the Wikipedia page. Let me see. All right, so this is the book that you guys might want to consider reading to understand the situation that has been going on, the demographics of these countries. There we go. So let me stop sharing that screen, and let me share this one. National security. All right, so it says here, the National Security Study Memorandum 200. It was completed under Henry Kissinger. And if you guys don't know about... All right, so hold up. So, sorry, zoom in on what, sir?
Just zoom in when you get to that part.
Yeah. So the named countries. 13 countries are named in the report as particularly problematic with respect to U.S. national security. India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, Turkey, Nigeria, Egypt, Ethiopia, Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil. The countries are projected to create 47% of all world population growth.
So here, let's break it down. You see the Philippines, you see Mexico, you see Colombia, and you see Brazil. So basically, the U.S. is saying that the trend of population within these countries, amongst these other African countries and India, South Asian countries, is problematic to our security interest. So Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, and the Philippines being economically stable, politically stable, socially stable, being fruitful, being productive, is not in U.S. security interest. So let's understand what I just said. Basically, they're saying that in order for the U.S. to be secure, we need to destabilize with the ultimate intention of lowering the population in Mexico, the Philippines, Colombia, and Brazil. It's very clear here. Very clearly laid out for you here. So it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not Rancho with his Nicaraguan resent of the gringos. It's reality. Please go ahead.
Right. So we had a little bit of a discussion before this, and I wanted to point out the devil's argument sort of case that they would make. And I've heard this a couple of times, and the case that is made here is that since these countries are developing, they wouldn't be able to have the resources in order to educate, feed, clothe all of these sort of children that were being birthed in these population booms. And so the ideal would be to cut down on the births so you can have, 2 at most, ideally you would have 1. And so you would be able to invest all of your resources into that one child so that it could grow up and, be economically stable and all that. And so that's kind of what the population control agenda tells you. It's that if you have too many children...
there's a lot of fallacies in that logic. First of all, you see here a tone of Anglo-Dutch mercantilism, this concept that resources are limited and therefore we need to go and be pirates and accumulate as much of these resources as possible. And you see a little bit of Malthusian worldview here, and this is all stuff that we will break down in future episodes. But they're assuming that there's a limited amount of resources, therefore there's more people, there's going to be more competition for these resources. But this is a fallacious view because it doesn't account for human dynamism, meaning that when you have more people, human ingenuity finds ways to extract more productivity from a square foot, right? Does that make sense? So just one way to really easily explain this, it's like saying that a mother has X amount of love, right? She has 10 pounds of love, and it, you know, you can spread this around 7 kids, or you can spread it around 2 kids, because she only has a finite amount of love. But that's not true. When a mother has her second child, her love, her pie doubles in size, right? The pie can grow. These people are thinking that there's a limited amount of slices. That's the fallacy. The reality is that the pie can be made bigger. And in history, you will never find where population decreases and economic development, population decreases and economic development increases. So this is what they're trying to sell. They're trying to say, hey, African woman, or hey, Latin American woman, let me inject you with this permanent sterilization, and you're going to be able to buy, you know, Gucci bags like you see on the videos. But that's a fucking lie. That doesn't generate more wealth. What generates wealth is investing in infrastructure and resources. So again, just complete fallacy, complete projection of Anglo-Dutch mercantilism, historically inaccurate. And again, it just doesn't understand the human for what he really is, and the human being a dynamic being through ingenuity, through innovation, is able to exponentially maximize resources. There isn't a finite amount of them. It just means that there's an innovation opportunity to solve that finiteness.
The other fallacy that's at play here is this sort of contradiction, or this paradox of these Western countries establishing very extensive welfare programs for the people. I think more specifically, we can talk about the case of U.S. Social Security, which relies on continuous population growth to keep it going. Because, well, the first people who paid into the system, well, they got quite a bit out of the system. You know, because usually back then people died a little earlier. So they were able to take the benefits of Social Security and all that. But then that kind of has to be passed down to the next generation. So that means that you're going to have 2, 3, 4 kids in order to sustain Social Security. As Social Security as of now is insolvent, which means that there's not enough money if people start retiring to start handing them, you know, their benefits, their entitlements, which, you know, legally they are entitled to. And so they bring immigrant populations in order to supplant that sort of population decline. And so specifically, we've seen that in Europe. Europeans have an even lower birth rate than that of the Americas. And European politicians have kind of decried this because they know that without population growth, there is no funding for their welfare programs, which is why they bring a lot of migrants from North Africa, the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, in order to be able to supplement that lack of economic productivity that arises from, you know, a young working class. And of course, Europe has had a lot of issues with that because these workers have not been as productive as they thought they would be. And now it's kind of like become a beating stick for native Europeans to say, well, you want your welfare programs, you're going to have to be demographically replaced. Because didn't you know that your NHS nurse is a Bangladeshi, and the guy that, you know, works at the local McDo in France is an Algerian, and how dare you be racist? They're helping you retire. And so that's where sort of the Trojan, there's a lot of Trojan horses going on across the world, and this would certainly be one of them.
I just want to highlight to Henry, no, this is not true. Again, if you applied modern irrigation systems into Africa, in a place the size of Texas, this has been researched, studied, and I can pull up the research and the studies to you. If you irrigated a place the size of Texas, you could feed the entire world. So this notion that land is limited, resources are limited, yeah, they are, but that's then an opportunity for more optimal management of these resources. But that doesn't mean that more population means starvation. No, more population will inevitably put pressure in society to innovate. We are overlooking the human ability for innovation, for invention. This is what the human does when he's faced with a challenge. He solves it. And this is exactly what the West doesn't want to happen in places like Africa and Latin America, because they want you to be kind of what Klaus is pointing at here, essentially laborer farms to come into the West and support the pensions for old white people who own up all the property, and all the political machines, and their children take up the political. And this is a very interesting topic that I'm actually going to have a guest who's a professor. He's actually Hispanic here in the United States. He's going to share with us some research that he's had, kind of sounding the alarms. Like, this is actually dangerous to create a perpetual underclass out of Hispanic men, specifically in the United States, because these niggas cut throats. So, it's interesting. Then you said China without the one-child policy would have started. I think that's, again, where's the evidence for that? It's simply China doesn't, the CCP wanted to have control, right? And the more people you have, the more opportunity you have for people to take your control away. So I think that's really what it comes down to. Now, look, China has shot itself in the foot. All the economic progress China has made over the last 3 decades is on a lifeline, the thickness of a hair, because over the next 2 to 3 generations, China is facing a demographic storm that is basically going to gut all that economic progress made. And I'm sure they're regretting that policy, and they're actually working right now to try to reverse it, but they're limited in their ability because they've kind of trapped themselves. They cornered themselves. So, yeah. And then you said CCP supports certain African countries to reduce. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but please show me some evidence of that, because I haven't seen it anywhere.
Now, the video very relevant to this that you guys might want to look into for further reading after this episode would be Demographic Collapse, China's Reckoning, Part 1 from Polymatter. And I would suggest that if you...
Excellent video.
If you guys are in any way inclined to geopolitics and understanding how things really work, I would suggest subscribing to Polymatter and watch this video specifically on why these antinatalist propositions that people tell you will lead to economic growth are actually the complete opposite. But to segue into all these black pills into a white pill, let me show you guys what I've been kind of engaging in kind of outside the YouTube space, because as I told you guys in the intro, there's a lot of talk about, oh, this is what we should do, this is what we should be, oh, we should be an empire, we should be socialist, we should be capitalist, all this kind of theorizing. And theorizing is fun, theorizing is interesting, it's intellectually stimulating. But if you stop there and if you don't go past that into the realm of praxis, of actually doing things, then at the end of the day, you're just a mental masturbator on the internet, and you're not particularly useful. All right, so if you could share the screen that I sent you there.
Yes.
So I've been engaging in to call decentralized philanthropy, where I try to help people in underprivileged communities in Colombia without the need of NGOs. Naturally skeptical of NGOs for a couple of reasons. As we've stated before, they tend to introduce a lot of ulterior motives into their charity, ulterior motives which are ultimately bad for our people. And just in general, I've kind of heard that NGOs are very inefficient because there's a lot of overhead costs. So, NGOs obviously have a semi-business structure, right? They have not technically a CEO, but they have
But NGOs, you have to remember, NGOs are owned by the people who own the printing presses, so they can just print more money and send it to the NGOs. They're not looking for profit.
No, I mean, absolutely, I understand, but I don't like. No, what I mean is, I don't like the fact that if I donate to an NGO, for every dollar that I donate, about half of that, at best, is going to go.
Not even. It's probably like 4 cents. It's probably 4 cents of that ends up at that cause. And again, that cause is laced with global homo.
Exactly. And as the quote unquote libertarian guy in the group, I decided, well, if the government's not going to help out, if the NGOs aren't going to help out, well, I think it's up to me to help out these people. And I've met this wonderful gentleman called Don Pollo. It's at Gallo Matrix. You can follow him if you're interested in just helping out people and learning about what Colombia is all about, what's happening recently. And here's a case that captivated me a lot. It says here she's Lisbeth Medrano, her partner and her 2 children were helping out with a self-constructing project in Villa Ester in Malambo. That's a little, you can call a suburb of Barranquilla in Atlántico in Colombia. And he was going to host a bingo on July the 18th to get all the resources necessary to complete the building of her new house. And it tells us, if you could help us with a little gift for the bingo or any materials that would be required for that. And, obviously I sent here like a little Black & Decker, what do you call it?
Blender.
Licuadora, a blender, right?
Yeah.
I helped out with some money as well. Sorry.
So they needed help to build their house, and they're basically enticing the community to come help out by offering a bingo raffle where people can get some appliances for their home.
Absolutely. And it's kind of very interesting that if you guys remember the HOP episode, and you guys should certainly go back and listen to that, my section on the HOP episode was all about, okay, how can we realistically do things as opposed to just talking? And a couple of those ideas that I mentioned, one of them specifically was the vaca. And the vaca is this Colombian concept of a sort of like a potluck or a gathering of money to a certain cause. So say, for example, if OG, me, and a couple of other people round up some money to, say, for example, help OG's cousin who suffered an injury and is fractured, then boom, we can help directly. We don't need to go to, insurance companies or any sort of government funded healthcare to do that. We do it directly. And so this is what we did. So this is from Don Pollo. He says, thanks to Klaus for your contribution to the bingo cards that will be given to mothers who are heads of households and the elderly tomorrow at the bingo. Funds for the bingo will finance the labor costs for Lisbeth Medrano's housing project and her family. So I decided to help out a little more and actually buy some bingo cards. Obviously, I'm not there in Colombia right now, much less in Malambo. So I wasn't going to play the bingo. He was just going to give them out to underprivileged mothers who they wanted to play and they wanted to have a good time.
That's good. I mean, this is interesting. It's showing up all the pinkos and the commies in our circles that man, the broke libertarian is out here doing acts of charity while the commies and the pinkos. Bro, sounds like a competition, bro. Sounds like a competition.
Yeah, it's a competition in the market and all that. Funny enough, I met this guy through a retweet from another guy that I follow called Capitalismo Colombiano. So this is a point for us. But obviously, we're a little joking here, a little bit of bantering, trying to motivate people. And I helped out again. I don't remember quite. Oh yeah, I think I just gave a little more money for many thanks to Klaus for your contribution to the dishwasher, paint, and part of the electrical network for the home improvement of Lisbeth Medrano and her family. We're almost done, my people. They are moving this weekend. God is blessing us. And let me see if I can. Oh yeah, and this is, bro, my subscribers, they're just built different. Okay, so Gigi, if you're hearing this, shout out to Gigi. She was very motivated by Mr. Gaju's sort of efforts, and she, I talked to her and she said, "Yo, Klaus, can we help out with educating underprivileged kids?" Because that's actually a topic that I discussed with him. Because I met him this summer in June when I was in Colombia, and I just talked to him about this sort of 3-step process that I was planning with him. So in the opening of the fall semester, I planned to give a lot of books to the children. I was thinking of, giving them things that they would need just to have a rounded education, a Bible, the Colombian Constitution, mathematics books, some Aristotle, that type of thing.
Constitution, get the fuck out of here. What are they going to do with that? Wipe their asses?
No, but I mean, it's educación cívica.
I understand. I'm just busting.
Yeah.
It's it's an admirable step that you are doing what you can within the resources you have available to try to move the needle forward. And I hope that this is inspiration to a lot of the young people out there listening to us. And again, I think this is a first step. This is a great first step, and we're going to be a lot more targeted, a lot more organized, intentional to really help move the needles forward. From everything we've been doing. So this is great, man. This is so great to see.
All right, so this is actually the bingo night that occurred. It says, give thanks to God for all of you who blessed us with your solidarity and generosity. Yesterday was such a success. Thank you for your participation. And he adds a lot of people. Here I am. And he says others that I can't remember now. And this is what we were able to come up with, all of this. And here are all the wonderful residents of Villa Ester in the town of Malambo. Obviously, you guys can see that it's a little bit run down, obviously. These are a very sort of salt of the earth people who live in the land. And
it's fucked up. It's fucked up out there. They don't have government elites. They don't have national elites that are actually looking for the best interests of the country. Anytime somebody does come with interests of the lowest in the country, they tend to get killed by some kind of CIA connected operation. Let's just be frank here. But little things. And again, this is sad because this is a role that traditionally the church played and the church fraternities played, but the church has been gutted. The church is, the ring from the Lord of the Rings is in the hands of the wrong people. And so, the church is an old man with no teeth. And so we have to kind of step in it and fill in that vacuum. And I think, Klaus, you're doing a commendable labor to get the ball started in these efforts.
Thank you, and thank the Lord for granting me this opportunity to do it. So I'm going to share a bit more. So it says here, if only you knew how grateful they were with you guys and your efforts. So as you can see here, some citizens of Villa Ester, they were just having fun, chilling. Everyone was, they were winning at the bingo. And all of this was to fund Miss Medrano's house. So
house
obviously,
building, yeah,
it was all right. So let me see if I can actually pull up the her house. Okay, that's the end of the tweets, and let me show you how her new home looks like. Okay, there we go.
And if for everybody out there who's not subscribed to Klaus's channel, go ahead and do that. What's the name of the channel?
Klaus von Recht. Let me link you the channel
Hey,
via private chat.
Name? What is your name supposed to mean?
Well, it's so it's two things. It's based on a character from a novel that I was thinking of writing. That's kind of been in the background because I've been too busy, and that's also a throwback to my Wignet days. So Recht means right, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm from the right. And Klaus, well, it's just very German sounding.
Oh, jeez. So. We need to get you a new name, my nigga.
No, I like this name. No, I like this new name. I'm stuck with it. It's all good.
Oh Lord. What does Klaus mean in German?
No, it's just es el apodo de Nikolaus, I think. So Nicholas.
Oh, I see.
I guess I can kind of retcon it. Maybe say Saint Nicholas. I don't know.
Oh, we're gonna work on that. Okay, go ahead, man.
Oh, come on, man. And says here, friends, we meet and deliver the house of Lisbeth Medrano and her family, the before and after. With us, Mrs. Patricia Marin and teacher Alvaro Perez. Thank you very much to all who helped us make this possible. God blesses us, and we're going for more. So obviously, this is the before. You can see that they lived in kind of shanty conditions.
Yeah.
And this is a new house.
Nice,
now, unfortunately,
nice.
Unfortunately, yeah. So
and that's
unfortunately, unfortunately, they support FC Barcelona. So damn it, why did I support them? Now I'm just joking. Obviously, let me see if I can. I didn't see this video. That slipped past me. Hold up. So let me share with audio this time.
Exacto.
Todo lo que nos ayudaron alrededor, gracias. Por todo lo que nos dieron, por esta ayuda, por todo lo que nos han ayudado. Por todas las personas que nos ayudaron. Por todas que estuvieron alrededor de nosotros. Gracias. Álvaro. Patricia, gracias Patricia Marín, gracias Álvaro, gracias Pollo, gracias. Y las personas que nos acompañaron en la cuestión del bingo, gracias. Gracias por esa labor, gracias por todo, gracias.
Yeah, nice.
And that's what it's about. And obviously, this is just a very small stepping stone into something much greater. I know,
sure.
Noel, you've talked about building monasteries, sponsoring children's education, kind of creating a mentorship program. And so this is, technical school. So this is just the beginning. This is going to be something that you guys are not even going to believe we were able to accomplish. And obviously, with the Lord's help and with your guys' support, we can certainly make wonderful things happen. Because
if we're not doing that, then we're just grifters like everyone else on the fucking internet.
Absolutely. And it's 2021. We're way past that era of YouTube. This is now hopefully going to be the Hispano moment, the era of YouTube, where you're just going to take over and make wonderful things happen.
It seems that way. Great. Okay, so what else we got? What other items we got on the list for today?
All right. So I think the next thing that we have would be
a white show for me. What about the Jimmy Fallon?
Oh yeah, that was a funny one. You saw that video? Hold up, man.
Put that video.
Yeah. Oh, you guys. See, this is why you can't support white people anymore, guys. Give me a minute. Hold up.
Stop cucking for white people. Cucking for white people should be as embarrassing as cucking for black people.
All right, so hopefully we won't get hit with any copyright nonsense. So this is an episode from Jimmy Fallon tonight. This is the 1500th episode, and let's see what good old Jimmy has to say. You can put it on full screen, OG. So, there we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
The first time in America. Some more news. The results of the 2020 census just came out, and for the first time in American history, the number of white people went down. Wait, what? That's an interesting reaction to that. I didn't want cheers or boos. I just wanted to... Interesting. That's all I wanted. Yeah. Yahoo! Decline in white people are down. Well, yeah, which probably explains the decline in wedding DJs playing Total Eclipse of the Heart. Turn around every now.
Interesting. So what happened was, I guess the census came out. To be honest, this is kind of bullshit news because this happened a long time ago. It's just that they keep messing with what's considered white in order to kind of kick this can down the road, because I believe Somalis are considered white today in America. So, again, this isn't anything new, but I guess finally they can't keep bullshitting about it, right?
Well, no, the Somali thing is a little different. That's mostly used for anthropological reasons, and the reason why.
No, buddy, no. What I'm saying is that the definition for white today includes people like Somalis, amongst others. And it's as an effort. Who's this faggot dog? God, I hate.
Yeah, block him.
I love how much these fucking cocksuckers spend time trying to find out about me. Like, I'm not even hiding, faggot, but man, you got my picture in your phone, huh? Anyways, so back to my point is, what I'm saying is Somalis aren't white. We can all agree, right? But they're counted as white. And one of the reasons they're counted as white, amongst other groups, is to pad the white numbers, right? What I'm saying is that this news coming out is kind of late, like, because again, decade ago, they were already fuddling with what is white in order to pat their numbers. Does that make sense?
Yes, but you're misinterpreting that whole situation. However, North Africans and Arabs have always been considered white in the US, which kind of puts into question this whole notion that the white nationalists kind of say that, to be white means to be European. And obviously the rebuttal or the question to that is, okay, are Caucasians, as in people from the Caucasus Mountains, white? Are Armenians white? Are North Africans white? Are Arabs white? And they're going to get into a whole, okay, well, Arabs are technically Semites, so no, we're talking about Indo-Aryans, blah, blah. Okay, Indo-Aryans, so does that mean Northern Indians are white? I see a lot of fair-skinned North Indians. I've seen a couple of them in my life.
No, yeah, I understand. My point is that this news that the number of white people has for the first time gone down. It's like, dude, that happened a long time ago. The reason why news is because you were fuddling what white is in order to kind of kick that news down the road, right? Does that make sense?
To make them not scared and take imminent action after that. Because if they had stated that in the 70s or in the 80s, maybe even up to the 90s, there would have been some very harsh immigration programs set in place to reduce that trend. But since now white people have been so thoroughly demoralized by this whole, white is bad, whiteness is evil, and that type of thing, well, they've now been, it's been already a generation in the making where the white youth of America hate being white.
Yes.
And so that's why you saw all this cheering and clapping on Jimmy Fallon. Now, of course, there's going to be a little bit of an older audience. I'm assuming it leans millennial, Gen X. But that generation also had its kind of share of whiteness evil, whiteness bad. Why do you identify as white? Whiteness is the enemy and that type of thing.
Nobody hates white kids more than their white parents. Let's just be honest. I mean, these people are awful. So
and no one hates white parents as much as white kids. So
and that's why they burn down their own cities, as we saw last year.
Absolutely. So
I want to follow that up with this news that the number of Hispanics or Latino origin who identified as white alone fell by 53%, from 27 million to about 13 million. The number of Hispanics or Latinos reporting more than one race increased from 3 million to 20 million. That's a 560% change. So this is huge news. This whole notion that Hispanics want to be white, that's bullshit. Hispanics want to be Hispanic. There are pick-me's amongst us, just like there's Latinx or Afrocentrics amongst us, just like there's indigenous LARPers amongst us. But most Hispanics, I'm talking 98.9%, want to be Hispanic. Now, what is Hispanic racially has always been a complicated issue in the United States because it only allows you to be white or black, essentially. There isn't a Hispanic racial bubble. It's always, are you Hispanic ethnically? Yes. Then what race you are. But for the first time, the census allowed people to put more than one race, and Hispanics did. Hispanics who identified as white alone fell by 53%. And Hispanics who identified with more than one race, be it, white and Native American, or white and black, or white, black, and Native American, or white, whatever else people could be, increased from 3 million to 20.3 million. That's a 560% change. So this is showing me that, again, el momento hispano is real. There is a rise in consciousness amongst Hispanics. They are getting to understand themselves and know themselves in the face of the black-white dialectic of the United States. And I think last year was a turning point in that process.
Now, to provide a devil's advocate for this one, we all know that there are diversity programs in the U.S. which benefit Black and Hispanic students, workers, all that type of thing. So would it be prudent to say that at least part of this sort of change in self-identification is part of not so much a re-awareness of being Hispanic, but rather just a box-ticking exercise to be able to get some diversity bucks?
Well, what's the diversity bucks you get from the census?
Oh, fair enough. Well,
This isn't a college
okay.
application. This isn't a. And by the way, man, if you're a young Hispanic guy trying to get into college, I don't care if you're green eyes and you're from Jalisco or from Medellin or from the whitest part of Uruguay. Put Native American and put black too. Be smart. Be smart. Increase your chances when you're applying to college. Use the system. Use the loopholes and the gaps that the system offers. That's how the rich stay rich in America, right? They know how to manipulate the tax system. Don't be stupid. America is set up to be exploited by those who are intelligent enough to do it. Don't be a sucker. But yes, to answer your question, Klaus, what's the bucks behind the census?
That's a very good question. Well, I would assume that there would be at least some benefit. Like, say for example, if your state is now more diverse than ever, the federal government would give you some extra money for that. But that's just speculation on my part.
Yeah, Hispanics are totally out of touch with that. Hispanics aren't fucking depending on government aid for fucking anything. If there's a loophole, if there's some fucking money on the table to grab, that's a different situation. But they're not counting that in their calculus. You know, there's just a form asking them what they are. And Hispanics are always confused when you ask them what race they are. They're like, what, Mexican? Like, what do you mean, Dominican? Right? They don't understand that because, again, in our world, these concepts work differently. But now that they have an option to bubble in more than one race, they're doing it by an increase of 300%. So
okay, fair enough.
I think that's a white pill. I think this whole notion of people trying to promote that Hispanics are longing to be white. Yeah, there's pygmies, dog. There's pygmies. But that's not the norm, right? That's not the average Hispanic. Again, to Hispanic, when you ask them what race they are, they get confused. They'll respond with their nationality because that's their raza to them. That's what raza is to us. It's our ethnicity. Only in the United States do these two concepts get befuddled. But again, I think this is just more another piece of evidence towards El Momento Hispano, exactly what we've been talking about. And I think that's good. What else do we got on our list today, Klaus?
This is actually a perfect segue into our upcoming stream of a discussion that Jared Taylor and E. Michael Jones had on a channel called Guide to Culture. And I think this guy is some sort of pagan pro whatever. As you can see, his name is Frodi.
So he's a forest butt fucker.
Yeah, essentially, if you can call it that. And this is basically the meeting of the minds when it comes to the dissident right. Because Jared Taylor is about as kosher and as diplomatic and as normally adjusted as a white nationalist as you're going to get. I guess the second most diplomatic and normal looking one would be Richard Spencer. But after the whole sort of Trumpgate fiasco, that he no longer had this veneer of, just a guy who wants to really return America's demographics to what they were before the 1965 Immigration Act. And no, he kind of screwed himself over with that sort of antic. But Jared Taylor still has this veneer of being, just the guy who wants to discuss the facts. And, he's just there to tell you how it is. And, you guys need to see the reality of race. And actually, I do believe it's not so much a veneer as it is how he generally operates as a person. He does seem very diplomatic, very aristocratic.
I want to say real quick that he got slaughtered in this debate, and I'm only an hour into it so far. But, big ups to E. Michael Jones for really exposing this guy for the JA that he is.
Absolutely.
Which white identity inherently is. It's basically junior Jews. Well, go ahead.
And that's the thing, that Jared Taylor is one of the very few white nationalists or pro-white advocates who was not anti-Semitic in any way. He considers that Jews could potentially be, as he calls them, fellow men of the West. He doesn't really see this anti-Semitism stuff as being particularly constructive.
He admits that Jews are white. He admits it.
Yeah.
And And E. Michael Jones basically takes down white identity immediately with that, because it is a form of control. Black identity, white identity are not real. They're ideologies meant to control. That's not an ethnic identity. Man is more than his skin hue. And the LARP that these people put, these deracinated people without culture, without identity, without ethnicity, this mythology that they make around who they are. Whereas Hispanic is a real ethnic identity, and I can define it by 3 roots: Cristo Rey, la herencia, el lenguaje español, y el mestizaje. Those 3 things make you Hispanic. The more of those 3 things you have, the more Hispanic you are. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So that's on the one side. You know, you have a very sort of Jewish-friendly white advocate, which is rare among white nationalists. And then you have E. Michael Jones, who
white
is more of
nationalists
a...
love Jared Taylor. White nationalists will deep throat Jared Taylor in a second, bro. They love Jared Taylor because he talks about my IQ.
Yes, and the white IQ is very different from the Mexican IQ, and these mestizos are coming to America. And anyways, but
so we're gonna actually do an in-depth review of this debate tomorrow, I believe, right?
Yeah, pretty much tomorrow.
Nice. I haven't finished the debate. I'm an hour in, but so far, goddamn, E. Michael Jones brought my favorite biracial German Irishman, brought in the heavy heat, and just go ahead, man.
Right. So if you guys want to catch up on what we're gonna do and have some notes before we do the show, the channel to follow would be Guide to Culture on Odyssey, and that way you guys will be able to watch the debate and kind of understand.
I think I lost you, Klaus. Are you still there, buddy? Klaus, you're gone. Maybe you want to hop in and out, or maybe something died. But in the meantime, let me share some of my screen here. Oh, look, you're back. You back? Okay, go ahead. Share your screen again. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sure. I was just showing you guys the where the debate was being held. It was on Odyssey,
Again,
the YouTube alternative.
Okay.
You know, the channel is Guide to Culture. You guys can watch that. You know, and hopefully participate with us in our breakdown of this debate. It was very interesting. This was a long time coming. Never had 2 giants of the dissident West, the dissident right, been able to argue together and have a debate. So if you like debates, period, this was a very good debate, all things considered.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. Again, we're going to be reviewing it in depth. So I guess we'll be doing that tomorrow night, right?
Absolutely. Stay tuned for that one.
Let me just share real quick. I want to share the screen. Because it's really funny, because one of the things that Jared Taylor uses, I mean, it's like the question is race real? And like, what do you mean by that? Are genetic differences real? Or like physical characteristics real? Like, yeah, it's real. But what's your point? Like, you're going to build a fucking identity out of that? Is that going to give you a sense of self? So hold on, let me show you. So he uses this example of how the Japanese, an example of how the Japanese view the Americans when they first got there. So yeah, where's my mods at, bro? I think my mods are asleep. I think because they're all on East Coast time. Y'all be slacking, bro. Y'all be slacking. Stay on these people. Anyways, that's okay. So he shares this picture of how the Japanese saw the Americans when they first came. And this is the biggest self-own you could ever fucking do when you were talking about white race. So this is a painting, a Japanese painting of an American sailor that came to Japan. And this is how the Japanese saw the Americans. Does that look familiar at all to you guys? Klaus?
I don't know. The nose looks kind of funny.
Have you seen
the expression?
Have you seen this meme before?
I don't know. It seems familiar to me. Might have seen it somewhere.
Let me share. Let me share here. This might make it easier. Oh, I need to cue the carnival music. It's literally a painting from the mid 1800s Japan or late 1800s Japan. And, we've all seen this meme here. So if that's not a fucking self-own, I don't know what is. I just thought it was so fucking hilarious that I had to screenshot it and just be like, wait. I've seen this meme before. And then I remembered where I saw it. And it's just like, wow. There we go. So yeah, no, the debate was great. Again, I need to finish watching it, but I mean, it's a lot of people are kind of talking about it, so that's always good. So we'll be touching on that tomorrow. Any other points you want to touch on? Oh, you know what? We have a question from our brother Chichi. I want to touch on today.
Sure.
So Chichi asked, he said, do you guys think accepting Hernan Cortez as the paternal route, and what he means is like as a paternal archetype, right? Of what we are, will prevent women from being sluts. In other words, do you think Mexican American girls won't be that slutty if they accepted their paternal route? And I answered Chichi this question. I said, look, women's loose sexual morals are not a problem. They're a symptom of a bigger problem. And that bigger problem lies in men. So long as men let go of their roles as stewards, as they forego their role as protector, provider, and pastor of women, as long as men prioritize pleasure seeking over righteousness, then the symptom of that degeneration will be women of loose sexual morals. So women aren't going to give a fuck really if you're talking about, hey, Hernan Cortez is a good archetype for the nation, capital N, the ethnos. But what it should do is that it should give men a higher legacy. It's like you got bigger shoulders to fill in, right? To stand up straighter, because what this man was about, what this man valued, what this man was able to accomplish should compel you to not be basically, a pleasure-seeking otaku or whatever the fuck is happening amongst our brethren today, which then is going to have an effect on how women behave. Because if you're a man who prioritizes pleasure over duty, you will have no respect from women. You will have no authority. You might have physical power over women, but women are very good at neutralizing our physical power with their mental power. But if you live righteously, if you live morally, if you actually walk the talk, then women will give you respect and they will submit willingly and they will follow what you lead them to. So to answer your question, Chichi, the women for themselves, that isn't gonna do much. But what it should do, it should make the men more moral, more righteous seeking, and therefore, by a consequence of that, the women won't be so slutty.
And in addition to that, I just wanted to add to something you said about women and men who seek pleasure. And it's been my experience that women who know that you are, say, for example, sexually addicted, they understand that they hold a power over you. It's not a physical power, as Noel said, because they can't beat you up, and so they can't intimidate you in that regard. But they can control you through their sexuality. And if you're a lustful man, that is the tool that they will use to control you. And that's where we start getting into the realm of a matriarchy. Yes. And really, women do hold a lot of power over men if we let them. Because,
we put pleasure above duty. Absolutely. Women are the source of pleasure.
We're the horny gender. We're the horny sex. And especially Hispanic women being so beautiful and so sexually enticing, they're very well aware of their power. And so you need to be able to reject that sort of very sort of succubus-like energy from women and make them understand that you think withholding sex from me is going to make me bow down to your will or anything like that. But no, as the saying would go, I got other hoes in different area codes. If you really want to play me like that. Now, obviously, you know, if we're talking about a girlfriend or wife situation, obviously, you know, I'm not encouraging you to be infiel con su esposa or anything like that. But you need to let her know that, you know, I can survive without you.
Yeah. But again, the whole point is we need to give our brothers archetypes to look up to, and not even just look up to, but to supersede, to say, okay, if this is where we were 500 years ago, we should be that much higher, more evolved than that point. We shouldn't be decaying from that point. Cortez was a womanizer, right? He's a Latin lover, just like other men. But Cortez was profoundly religious, and Cortez at least owned his mistakes. And that's really what it comes down to. We're not perfect here. The least we can do, though, is own our faults, own our vices. And that's the first step. It's like what you touched on earlier, right? When you admit that there's a problem, you're now enabled to do something about it. So again, to answer Gigi's question, you know, it's important for Hispanic men to have archetypes to look up to cause them to stand up straight with their shoulders back, to keep their heads high, to know that there's a legacy to carry on, because that should compel us to resist temptation. That should compel us to seek the narrow, righteous path. So yes, it will have a positive effect eventually when women will look at us with actual authority, right? Because you can tell women, don't be a slut, but then you're out there being a slut maker, they're not going to listen to you. But if you tell them, hey, you shouldn't be a slut, ma, and they see you actually having masculine control over your sexual impulses, then that's going to make them respect you and give you authority, and then they will follow and they will listen. It's very simple to deal with women. It's just hard for men to rise above their impulses. So again, we're the beginning and we're the end of the problem. We cannot blame women. Guess who blames women, right? What community out there is divesting from each other and blames women? So if you want to take the route of blaming women and thinking that the solutions to women's problems don't lie in your hand as a man, then you have a very faulty definition of what a man is. You don't understand what a man's true role is. And it's to protect his women and his family from demonic forces. That's the pastoring part. You're the pastor of the church, of your family, of your home. And you need to be able to discern evil influences and keep your family protected from them. So anyways, absolutely. I think with that note, we can wrap up. It's nice to kind of end this at 2 hours. Klaus, is there anything else you want to touch on before we go?
No, I'm just gonna post all my links here, Twitter, YouTube, just so that you guys know where to find me. If you're always down for an asado, like OG even comes to my asado, so you know.
Yeah, I'd be on there, bro. And some good stuff comes out of my mouth when I'm on there. Hold on, let me see.
Yeah. If you're not on that trolling nonsense, you know, hit a follow. And oh yeah, guys, don't forget that we're also on Spotify, because we always keep forgetting about trying to show the Spotify. So there's no excuse if you're like, oh, but you know, YouTube Premium is too expensive, blah blah, all that nonsense. Look, see, El Momento Hispano, we got it there for you guys. All the episodes, they're all available all the time. You can just listen in, chill out while you're doing the dishes, doing the homework, doing the whatever. And that's all you got to do. Spread the message.
And again, we've been doing this for a year. I've never gone hard on trying to like make this searchable or whatever. I've just got with some of my friends and we've had deep conversations. We've been having a continuous conversation for about a year. Exactly a year, and we just passed 1,000 subscribers, so that's exciting. Again, we've been working in the background to really evolve things to be bigger than Rancho, because I'm not interested in being a celebrity. I have other aspirations and goals. I'm just basically, you know, putting in the work where I see it's necessary, because that's my duty and my expectation as a man. If you see a little kid struggling with tying his shoes, you help him tie his shoes. If you see an old woman, you know, about to cross the street, you help her cross the street. If you see someone struggling with something, carrying something, you pitch in and you help. And that's really been what my investment in this has been about. And the opportunity is much greater, both in what we can build, the cultural effect we can have, but also like Klaus has begun to do in the actual building up our community. And through the conversation through a year, through the great people who have come together and networked and argued with each other and done all the things we've been doing for a year, we've been able to carve out 2 vehicles for that. And those are coming very, very soon. So, I just want to say thanks to everybody for subscribing. Give a thumbs up. This is the first time I've ever asked, because we got haters. We got people who just kind of bitterly watch this shit. And I don't know, these people are fucking masochistic, creepy as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, thank you everybody. Klaus, got anything?
And just share this video for anyone, any Hispano normies that you have, because we touched on a lot of Hispano specific issues on this episode. So this could be a great introduction to them and let them know, like, hey, this is what's happening in our backyard, and something about it, that type of thing. Always share the content, guys. This is the only way we can kind of reach out to others and help this thing grow.
Yeah, and also this reminds me, since we're in the announcement phase, we have kind of a reading group going, or a study group, you could call it, where we're kind of sharing the burden with each other. There's so many things, books to read about history, about political development, economic development, about this kind of Kissinger thing we had shared earlier. So there's a lot of study and research that needs to be done. And if you're kind of academically inclined, if you're intellectually curious and you'd like to help us out, reach out to me or Klaus, and we're kind of building that group in order to be able to, again, more efficiently produce content, so that, Rancho doesn't have to take these really long breaks, because before basically I was kind of doing everything. But now we can be more consistent. We have more voices. We have more brains. Klaus, why don't you share a good email with the audience here?
That would be your email, right? Or do you want me to share the Momento Hispano email?
Yeah, whichever one that people can contact you, because I need your help. I mean, you're the producer of the show now, so I need your help with this. So I put my email out there, but do we have another email that you'll be checking?
Absolutely. So we have, let me see this damn YouTube thing. We have og.momento.hispano@gmail.com, and I'm going to post that in the comments.
Right now.
Any suggestions that you guys have? And as a matter of fact, I think we could build a virtual library in the Momento Hispano Google Drive thing. And we might actually, OG, now that I'm thinking about this, we can put the Kissinger report on a Google Drive over there. So let me get to work on that.
Yeah, again, so if you guys would like to participate, contribute to that labor by basically reading and taking good notes and just sharing with the collective these notes so that we can then turn that into content, please reach out to us. I'm a little slow at getting to emails. I'm going to do my best to get better at the emails. Sorry, but I got a lot of shit outside of Momento Hispano, and I get way too distracted on Telegram talking to these guys as is, so I really have little extra time, but I'm going to be better at getting to those emails. And now I'll have Klaus's help, and Henry's helping out as well, so that we can stay on top of it, and we can, you guys can help us do it. We got an animator online, so pretty soon we're going to be doing high quality animation videos, kind of like those kind of war history channels that you see. So there's a lot of exciting shit coming out. If you guys would like to participate in any way, I help out, contribute, email us. We'll see how we can, set something up where, you can help us with that. So with that, guys, que Dios los bendiga, se me cuidan, vayan a rezar antes de dormirse y, perdonen al que tengan que perdonar, y mañana es un nuevo día y de ahí comenzamos. Viva Cristo Rey, viva la hispanidad y viva el mestizaje.
Dios los bendiga, se cuidan. Chao.
Chao.